It's pretty basic. 3 episodes, each relatively short, but jam-packed with lore as prologue to an upcoming game. Right? Yeah, this episode was a nothing burger. Don't get me wrong, I'm not dissing it. In fact, it was so short and sweet that they were able to focus more on action here. In Sonic X Shadow Generations Dark Beginnings Episode 2, finding... Damn these titles. I'm the Fox Boy, Axe. I have some Sonic facts. And, as a matter of fact, I see a lot of people saying, Team Dark is finally back! Yeah, where the hell had they supposedly gone to though? Because I get it, it's been some time since they were established in Sonic Heroes, but you team up with Rouge and Omega in Shadow the Hedgehog, they're together in Sonic 06, Shadow works with Omega in Colors on the DS, Shadow communicates with Rouge on rescuing Omega in Sonic Forces. I was under the impression that this was an ongoing thing. Not that I'm not happy to see it, even more impressive is how satisfying their voices are to me. I already stated I liked the voice acting in episode 1, but this one? First off, Kirk did even better here. His voice is often much smoother and breathier. I mean, wow, dude, talk about an improvement. I also want to clarify that while I say he's my least favorite Shadow voice, that doesn't mean I hate his Shadow voice. David Humphrey is my favorite Shadow voice. That's my standard, but Jason Griffith is also a very close second. It's like that. Maria's voice continues to be absolute perfection. Rouge is an interesting situation because we started off with this voice in Sonic Adventure 2.
I guess I'll just have to take the last pieces of the Master Emerald.
Somehow got this voice in Sonic X Onward.
Cracking the code'll be a cinch.
But then ended up going back to her not having such a deep voice.
Sorry, but I have better things to do. I have what I came for.
However, this actress, Karen Strassman, like Kirk Thornton, hadn't really gotten to voice Rouge all that much over the course of these 14 years, despite holding the role the longest. When she voiced Rouge in Sonic Dream Team, people started complaining and saying we need a new Rouge voice actress. I don't think the performance is bad like people say actually, but the voice director definitely should have guided her back away from sounding like, Amy.
Huh? What does that even mean?
But the fan base is wild. It wasn't even an issue before, but apparently because of one game, then it was a casting issue. Well, actually there may be a little bit more to it than that, rather than it just being a difference of opinions, feelings, philosophies, the more complex natures of reality. People have decided we're right, you're wrong, and that makes you a bad person. And if you aren't in the know, a similar thing has happened to Mike Pollock recently as well, the voice actor for Dr. Eggman. And Metal Overlord? Is that right? I need to check up on that. We'll go more into this situation another time, but the takeaway I gather is don't spend time on Twitter X. It's not healthy. For the record, I'm not brushing anything off, but it's just far messier than I can get into right now. That said, Rouge's voice in this short not only sounds much better, but sometimes sounds very similar to Lani Minella, the Sonic Adventure 2 Rouge voice.
Well, you're out of luck here. This is just a supply depot.
Not just because it isn't deeper like the 4Kids voice, but I don't know, she just has that sound in her voice. And Omega, well, he sounds fine. My standard Omega voice is how he sounded in Sonic Heroes and Shadow the Hedgehog.
You know about cloning. The original must exist somewhere. Dr. Eggman, I will destroy you and reign supreme.
And while those are two different voice actors, the latter being of the 4Kids cast, the effects were so similar it was as if he had never been recast. In Sonic 06, it's another voice actress, rest in peace.
Shadow, the one that defeats and seals you in the future, is me.
But Omega's voice there sounds different on purpose because of the effects used, a direction that you hear in both English and Japanese. In fact, some voice clips from Sonic 06 were used in one of the Olympic game titles, but with more traditional effects.
Commencing combat.
when everyone was recast and Vic Mignogna was Omega in 2010 up to 2017's Sonic Forces, the effects were a little different.
Target sighted. Thank you. E123 Omega here. Extermination proceeding without incident. No problems to report.
Well, they continue that sound in 2019's Team Sonic Racing.
Egg ponds exterminated. More egg ponds to exterminate. Excellent. Message received. Vector, you will soon be behind me.
And this is yet another voice actor, as Vic Mignogna was removed from the role for reasons that seem to be inconclusive to the fan base, unfortunately. One of those other messier situations. Man, voice actors lately. Look, just go where life takes you and don't get lost in the sauce, okay? Well, surprisingly, ever since a recent TalesTube video featuring Omega,
acquiring tribute from Knuckles,
that robot has been voiced by, you ready? Roger Craig Smith, the voice of Sonic. And, well, it sounds the same. Although maybe it's in my head, but the effects in Dark Beginnings didn't feel so off this time. It felt more traditional. Maybe I'm just getting used to it, I don't know. Either way, the voice was fine.
Raise me inferior models. I call dibs.
Omega continues to be extreme, which is both cool and funny. When Omega was introduced, you would think that no one would care about him all that much, but nah, he's a fairly likable character. Now, I know I spent a lot of time talking about the voices here. There's not much else to talk about. Like, there's two scenes. Shadow contemplating his existence again, only this time he knows about the Black Arms, and this is something that was added as it was never established to be the case before. It was also never established not to be the case before either. No, it's not a complete retcon. It retcons our perspective of Shadow in Sonic Adventure 2, but it doesn't necessarily change or conflict with anything. It's interesting they remember to even acknowledge Abraham as a kid in this. And also the fact that Maria even calls him Abe. I've been calling him Commander Tower as that's his name in the Archie comics, but this was never announced in or canon to the games. In the comics, his first name was Abraham, and here Maria calls him Abe. Then again, was Ian Flynn maybe involved with both of these works? Maybe he just has the ability to do it, so he did it. I think it's interesting that Abe makes it known to everyone that he dislikes Shadow, even Maria. I mean, even Shadow seems to be aware. He and Maria are also aware of the aliens. I was initially under the impression that the alien thing was a secret and Abe kept it to himself the whole time. Some even speculate that Abe is the whistleblower that led to Gunn raiding the Ark, which sounds a bit far-fetched, but reminds me of something similar from Attack on Titan. Also interesting that Shadow has such disgust for this creature in front of him. At this point, do they all know the Black Arms are evil? I also think it's interesting having Maria say,
"Then, you'll find even more people you can trust."
It implies that while being hopeful, Maria doesn't expect to be cured, and maybe her anticipation of a short life is why she is the way she is, being as happy as she can be all the time despite being on the Ark. She expects Shadow to have to move on and find other people after her. When the line is spoken, we transition to Shadow breaking into Eggman's base in Sand Ocean from Sonic Adventure 2, where he meets up with his comrades, Rouge and Omega. And while Sega mandates that Shadow doesn't have any friends, they've all definitely come off as friends, and the writers are definitely pushing for it by implying that they are the new people Shadow has found to trust in. I don't know why Sega can't see it, but it only strengthens the character of Shadow, but also Rouge and Omega too. Because despite Rouge being a sass-talking, flirtatious double agent jewel thief, and Omega being a destructive, egotistical fighting machine, they are clearly very loyal to Shadow. Now we just need to get away from this thing where Shadow is always annoyed with Sonic's existence. They even started trying to push that Sonic doesn't get along with Shadow either.
I don't know, buddy. We never really got along. From the moment we met, we've been at odds.
Yeah, I mean, at least there Sonic isn't a pushover like in Sonic Prime.
You could have at least let me finish what I was going to say!
Which is a completely different dynamic, by the way, but also the end of Sonic Adventure 2 and Sonic Heroes would have you believe that the two get along a lot better. You have one scene in Shadow 5 where he's annoyed with Sonic.
What's up, Shadow? Not you again.
And you fight Sonic depending on the path that you take. But Sonic definitely doesn't have an issue with Shadow.
Time to rock and roll! You up for this, Shadow? Shadow, what's wrong?
I think you're right.
In Sonic 06, even in Sonic Colors for the DS, he seems to have no big issues with Sonic outside of mild rivalry. One's serious and one's playful, that's it. But then you also have Sonic Generations when Sonic is down, and
You've got this, Sonic.
yeah, you also have Sonic Forces, where he's totally got Sonic's back.
Another Shadow?
That was a fake.
I know I'm playing a lot of interjected clips here, but honestly, I think it would be cooler if Sonic and Shadow played up more of their friendship while highlighting their differences, rather than just outright making them hate each other. But yeah, he implies a reluctant agreement to go to Sonic's birthday party and trade for Rouge showing him a way to get to the Ark. This is their way of tying the story to Sonic Generations, where Shadow ended up not appearing at the birthday party. Rouge must have been disappointed. But it's pretty clear what he was doing instead. Although the inclusion of stages from Sonic Forces and Sonic Frontiers that take place after Sonic Generations, and one of which being a game Shadow wasn't even in, my theory was that classic Sonic was from the past, modern Sonic was from the midpoint, and Shadow was from later in the timeline, all colliding alongside each other in the timeless white void space. Well, now that's not the case. So why are these two stages there? Aside from including the most recent games, of course.
Time travel. Duh.
I mean, obviously, you stupid Sonic fans. Yeah, no. That's something everyone has thought of, but I'm not going to treat it like it's the obvious answer that everyone should have thought of, considering that Generations only had the characters go through their own history, but not go places that they'd never been to. Why not add 2 new stages to Sonic's campaign as well then? I mean, I guess we don't know that they didn't do that, but I doubt that they did. If it's just time travel nonsense, then why not have Generations in 2011 or even Shadow Generations now also release new, never before seen levels as well? I mean, could you imagine it if after Planet Wisp there were like a 10th level that was brand new, introduced in Sonic Generations? They introduced a new boss. It would even be cool to have a couple of new levels and have their explanation be that they are foreshadowing future games, then actually have future games feature those stages. Anyway, of course that's asking for too much. Back to Shadow finding a way to the Ark. So he says he's looking for a shuttle. That checks out, there was a shuttle in the base after all. Not sure why Rouge doesn't just inform him of the space transporter she found in the same base. Or, wait a minute.
I'll be waiting for you in the central control room on the Space Colony Ark. I've been waiting for you, Doctor.
How did he get to the Ark in Sonic Adventure 2? I can only imagine that Shadow stole that one Chaos Emerald to do Chaos Control and get to the Ark that way, as he'd already told Eggman to bring more Chaos Emeralds. Well, Shadow has an emerald in Dark Beginnings, so whatever, writer's oversight, it happens. Look, if the writers can forget about these things, so can the characters, so it's believable enough, I suppose. Like, I'm not even sure what going to the Ark is supposed to do for him in regards to finding out about the Black Arms being back. Is the indication supposed to be that he suspects this one larva from the flashback has survived and maybe revitalized the hive mind? Or does he think that they've been hiding out on the Ark this whole time? The real meat and potatoes is that the egg ponds have been massively upgraded, as well as the egg breaker, which I guess can operate on its own now. So you see, the in-game fighting standard of these guys was just raised, and I don't think they're gonna meet that level. Man, the action in this miniseries. I know people want a full series and complain that these are too short, but I think being short and not being a full series is what allows it to look so great. The only weird thing I noticed about how it looks is that I think Rouge has undergone some design tweaks. In the back of her outfit, it goes all the way up to her wings now. And in the front, I mean, I'm not trying to be weird, but it's just odd that it's happened after 2 whole decades. But it isn't the first time either. Again, not to be weird, but it's just an odd choice. Does puberty work backwards for Sonic characters? Are Cream and Tails actually older than Sonic and Amy? Wait a minute. Every Sonic clone has a flying friend. Huh. Well, that's it for episode 2. Moving on to episode 3? Yes, because work and other things have made my slow editing self incapable of releasing a video for just episode 2 in time, let alone 2 and 3. So it just ended up being better to put these together. And I suppose it's for the best, because when I watched episode 3 on the Hedgehog Zone live, we went back and played episodes 1 and 2 first, back to back, leading into episode 3. I didn't even look at the video length before watching the video and seeing how long it would be. While I called episode 2 a nothing burger in terms of volume, episode 3 actually felt longer than I expected. Again, episode 2 was awesome, I just meant that not a lot happened story-wise. A lot happened action-wise, which works well when leading straight into episode 3 that does both story and action. I'm getting ahead of myself talking about the relationship between episodes here, so I'll save that for a little bit later. But in episode 3, there's a lot of detailed things going on. 1. They've already destroyed a number of obstacles upon entering the base. 2. Omega is comedically awesome and destructive. 3. A quick reminder that Rouge has done her research on Shadow and knows quite a bit.
They sealed you away for 50 years.
4. Also a quick reminder that Shadow currently knows quite a bit about himself, huh? 5. Shadow is definitely established to not work for Gun, as recently announced as one of his mandates. You'll notice that despite Sega's many mandates that clearly ruin Shadow's character, the right writers know what works and know how to make Shadow feel like Shadow faithfully while dancing around those mandates. I mean, Shadow went through training, made amends with
Commander Abraham Tower.
Wait, what? We'll get back to that. Shadow is sent on a mission to rescue Rouge in 06. He's working with Omega in colors for some reason, but no, he doesn't work for Gun, not at all. Oh, but he works with Gun sometimes. See? Now the mandate doesn't matter. So Shadow fights a Gun boss that hasn't changed in 50 years, but with much cooler presentation. Summons a Chaos Emerald from Hammerspace. Have I ever talked about the Hammerspace thing with the emeralds? I probably should someday. Yeah, he definitely didn't pull that out of his butt like usual. Didn't Sonic do this once? And then Shadow uses Chaos Control to get to the Ark. I mean, to mess up this gun mech. Like I said in the live stream, I've seen enough Gundam to know that this could be bad. Also, poster shot. Shadow heads off to space. The emergency unauthorized launch measures appear ready to shoot Shadow down, and then
Commander Abraham Tower
appears to stop it. Yep, he said his full name, confirming what I mentioned earlier. Also, I've never been happier to see this guy. He looks cooler here. He's also continuing where we left off on him being friendly with Shadow. So, even if mandates say Shadow doesn't have friends, who cares? But also, I recognize that voice. That's Roger Craig Smith, the voice of Omega. Oh, yeah, and Sonic. That's not the only somewhat surprising voice I heard in this short. Yeah, this was pointed out to me and confirmed by looking at the credits to be Casey Lee Williams, the vocalist for the theme songs from Ruby by Rooster Teeth. Well, that's exciting. She also did a cover of a song from Persona 5 I really like called Last Surprise.
You'll never see it coming. By the time that it hits you, your last surprise.
And I'll be darned she was right. I did not see her joining the Sonic franchise coming at all. What a very emotionally, powerfully epic moment, anime ending song kind of song. And Shadow's face as he thinks about Maria. I'm not crying, you're crying. So yeah, I think we're dropping the amnesia thing now. And what a journey. How very short these were individually, and not a whole lot of actual story was written, so much as mere moments. Yet it feels very well written, especially all three back to back, which makes the whole thing feel more like an OVA of sorts. I wasn't the most satisfied with the writing in Sonic Frontiers, but Dark Beginnings is solid. Two things I'll note is that Rouge is very loyal to Shadow despite her demeanor, and she might be the character to know the most about his backstory. This brings up the speculation that she developed a sense of care for Shadow's well-being out of sympathy, bringing out the good in this jewel thief. Another speculation, by the way, that she, like in Sonic X, was a jewel thief contracted to work with the government to make up for her general tendencies. You know, since in the games that was never actually explained.
Don't forget about my jewel.
It would explain her sometimes doing things that don't line up with gun, or breaking into a gun base. I even have a theory I'd like to make a video on regarding her role in Shadow 5. But yes, it does feel as though Shadow and the series as a whole was rewritten in a way within these shorts. Like, the mandates exist, the lore exists, but through a different lens. And I really hope that Sega and Sonic Team take notes and continue the positive elements from this and don't just look at the edge it presents, but also the substance that provides much positive reception from the fanbase. We already know that it seems the cutscenes in Sonic Generations are being rewritten according to rumor and leaks. Yeah, watch out for that stuff. And who knows, hopefully the characters are written more like in Dark Beginnings in the series going forward, and less like...
Then I'm wildly inconsistent.
Yeah, so that's gonna do it for this video. I hope to post a few more things before Sonic X Shadow Generations, but we'll see if I'm able to. I have a lot going on around the time the game drops too. So if you're watching this in the future, go check that out. We'll get to see how the game and these animations flow into each other, so that should be exciting. Stop, no, I'm sorry. If you like, comment, and or subscribe, I'll never do that again. So, see you next video!
I'm out of here!